Principal, Zakir Hussain College of Engineering Technology, AMU Aligarh. Dear delegates, without wasting much of time, let me call Professor Hoda sir. He will deliver a lecture on analytics NABLED research paper writing. But before calling him, let me go through his biography. Professor Huda is working as a director of BVICAM New Delhi. He has over 25 years of experience. He is an expert member of many board level committees of Government of India like DST, CSIR, MHRD, etc. He has served as a member of apex tertiary bodies like Academic Council, Board of Management, University Court, etc. of GSIP University. He is the founder, editor-in-chief of International Journal of Information Technology, published by Springer Nature, and which is indexed at world's premier AI databases, including Scopus, having CiteScore 2020 as 1.9. He has served as a sectional president, ICT of Indian Science Congress Association. He has served as a member of Governing Council of AITE New Delhi from 2016 to 2019 and recently got re-elected to serve it for 2020 to 23, including being the chairman of Technical Program Committee. He holds MCA degree from Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh, and doctorate in Information System Audit in Computer Science. His current areas of research are Information System Audit, Software Engineering, Computer Networks, Artificial Intelligence, and Soft Computing. ACTS and Innovative Pedagogies for 21st Century Teaching Learning System. He is a senior member of IEEE, senior member of ACM, fellow of Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers, fellow of Computer Society of India, fellow of Institution of Information Technology Professionals, life member of Indian Society of Technical Education, life member of Indian Science Congress Association, and National HRD Network. He was awarded Outstanding Achievement Award 2000 by Management Studies and Promotion Institute, New Delhi, for his outstanding achievement and contribution to the field of management and computer education in the year 2001, and the Best IT Teacher for the year during 18th All Indian Management Congress in 2016 for his outstanding achievement and contribution to the field of teaching, research, and institution building. Over to you, sir.
So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and good afternoon to everyone. Am I audible clearly?
Yes, sir.
Great. And my slides are visible?
Yes, sir.
This is a handshaking which I am doing. The slides are being changed. Slide changing is happening. Will someone confirm? Hello?
No, sir. No, sir.
Slide is not being changed?
No, sir. We are saying the slide 1.
Slide 1. No change is happening. Just a minute.
There is no change in the slides.
Okay, just a minute. That's what I wanted to test. What I will do? Just a minute.
डॉक्टर साहब इशू है कोई अभी?
Just a minute. Is it changing now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now
Yes,
it is
sir.
changed. Now the slide title research approach one way is coming.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, great. Then I have done it. Right. Just a minute. me little minimize it. So at the outset, let me pay my gratitude and my thanks for the entire university, to the department and Dr. Gulfam especially, who gave me this opportunity to interact with you all. Interacting to teachers, talking to teachers is a part of my passion, is a part of my hobby. But talking to teachers and expecting that I'm going to teach to any of the teacher, that is not being made today, because teaching to teacher is the most difficult task. So I'm not going to teach you anything, right? I'm just going to sensitize you what is happening in the domain and to which extent we need to take care of it, so that we should start becoming a better author, we should start becoming a better writer. That's what I wanted to sensitize to all of you. And that's how I have kept the topic analytics enabled research paper writing. Research paper we know, we have been writing. What the research paper is, that also we know. How variety of the inputs which is coming out of the huge data mining can help us to understand that what are do's and what are don'ts, what we should do and what we should not do, so that the probability of acceptance of our paper in high impact journals becomes better and better. What are helpful hints? That's my agenda today. And while talking that, I will be borrowing my idea from the two publications which normally I deal with. One is, of course, the Springer Nature, with which I have got interaction being as editor-in-chief of the journal which I am running. That is in a Scopus Indexed journal, which I've already heard. And second, of course, is the international conference, which year after year, since last 16 years, I'm doing. That is under IEEE. So basically the publication experience with IEEE and the publication experience of a Springer Nature. So close to 50,000 plus paper in last 15 years we have processed. So this will be what will be, I will be talking, will be an experience out of the mining of entire 50,000 papers which I have done so far, right? But I would like to start from this slide, that there is nothing constant in this world except change. And I'm sure every one of you must be agreeing with me that yes, change is the only constant phenomena, nothing else is constant. Because if there is anything else which is constant, probably we have to accept to those changes, then only that constant phenomena will happen. And that's how I say that let's change ourselves, otherwise the changing ecosystem, changing technological paradigm, changing environment will change us. And that's how I keep on asking that agar main aapse puchun ke how many of you at this moment have got Nokia feature phone, probably hardly 1 or 2% will say yes. But had I asked this question maybe around 15 years ago with all of you, maybe close to 80% plus people might have responded yes. Did we anytime analyze, realize, introspect, and understand that what were those factors because of which a brand like Nokia was changed? What were those factors? And if you go through that and try to analyze or introspect, you will realize the only factor was they didn't change. They didn't change the technology which they were using. They initially refused to Android, and where Nokia is, all of us know it. A product which has more than 80% customer share, a product which carrying of which product was known as a kind of brand. People used to be proud of carrying that product, is completely washed off. And now the same brand Nokia has got all smartphones in their product profiling, but can they attain that market share? Can they become the leader the way in which they were 15 years earlier? Absolutely not possible. And that is how I keep on saying that इंसान घर बदलता है, लिबास बदलता है. इंसान घर बदलता है, लिबास बदलता है, रिश्ते बदलता है, दोस्त बदलता है. इंसान घर बदलता है, लिबास बदलता है, रिश्ते बदलता है, दोस्त बदलता है. फिर भी परेशान क्यों रहता है? क्योंकि हम खुद को नहीं बदलते. एंड जब तक हम खुद को नहीं बदलेंगे, जब तक जो चेंजेस हम एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं वो चेंजेस नहीं आएंगे. जो इंपैक्ट ऑफ चेंजेस हम देखना चाहते हैं वो चेंज का इंपैक्ट नहीं नजर आएगा. एंड दैट्स हाउ अ ग्रेट पोएट गालिब सेड दैट उम्र भर गालिब यही भूल करता रहा, धूल चेहरे पे थी और मैं आईना साफ करता रहा. So my dear friends, we will not keep on blaming the technology, we will not keep on blaming the publishers, we will not keep on blaming the journals, we will not keep on blaming the guide, we will not keep on blaming the rules and regulations coming every day a new rule is coming from maybe UGC, from AICTE, or from other agencies. Rather, we will be focusing how to improvise the quality of our own publications. And if we can improvise the quality of our own paper, then probably it will get accepted in a quality journal. That's my first message to all of you. Second message, and a very important message, that we must know where we are. That is very important. Those who are from computer science, they may be knowing this person is a great person, Watts Humphrey, known as a quality scientist and also known as the father of software quality engineering. And he could dare around early 60s, 1960, and said that Chinese proverb, which says that if you do not know where you are going, any road will do, is not correct. My dear friends, if you wanted to disprove any theorem, you wanted to disprove any proverb, you wanted to disprove anything, what as a mathematician we have to do? We have to just give a counter example. And that's how Watts Humphrey gave a counter example. And he said that if you do not know where you are, a map won't help. And that's how he came a step forward and said that if you do not know where you are weak or you went wrong, you cannot improve. And the crux of the entire message which Watts Humphrey wanted to give, that even if I have a very illustrious map before me, but if I do not know my current location, then probably I may not be in a position to get any help out of that map. But if we know the current location, then taking help from the map will become easy. And that's how he said that we must know where we are right, where we are wrong. Where we are right are my success factors, are my those successful practices which I need to practice in a much rigorous way in coming activities. Whereas where I went wrong, those are my alarming zones, those are my shortcomings that I need to find out mechanism to finally understand how to overcome them, how not to allow its occurrence in any future or further activities. So that's how this message was given by the Watts Humphrey. These two messages I wanted to give to all of you before I go exactly on the technical paper writing and what are my experiences after analyzing all those papers and out of mining all those papers, what are the do's and what are the don'ts. So as I said, my entire discussion will be based on the experience with the IEEE and Springer perspective. So you have all right to differ with me. And it might be possible that to some extent, other publishers may be having a little different practice. That may be possible. So you have all right to differ with me. Different publishers have all right to differ with me. Whatever I will be discussing, that will be based on the experiences of IEEE and Springer. IEEE experience, this is a year after year international conference, the papers of which are being published by IEEE Explore, which is indexed with all world premier abstracting and indexing agencies, including Web of Science, that is ACI, then Scopus and all other indexing agencies. The second experience, which I said, is out of the journal. In 2009, I have started this journal. And since 2017, the journal is being published by Springer Nature. We keep on receiving close to 10 papers every day for the journal. And then we keep on processing those papers. So out of together, conference and the journal, in last 15 years, we have processed close to 50,000 papers. So mining algorithm has been applied on all those 50,000 papers. And then finally, we have categorized the casual attitude of authors in 4 different classes, right? And the very first which we have identified, that sometimes the author is so careless that he just copies it from somewhere, paste it in some paper, and maybe exactly publish somewhere else and submit for the purpose of publication. So copy and paste from an existing publication. Dear friends, if you feel that publisher is not going to check it, you are mistaken. Now all publishers, even small publishers, new publishers, have got ready-made tools, have got automated software tools, using which if no tool they have, then at least Google they have, right? But otherwise there are very specialized tools available with all publishers. So publishers will immediately come to know that this paper has already been published and so place, and this author is trying to fool us, right? So then there is a very harsh decision some few publishers are taking. So let's not be mistaken with that fact that publisher is not going to check this. So copy and paste is one approach, right? Second category of the authors are who are good authors, very intellectually sound, but what they are doing, they are under some pressure, might be during their masters, during their MTech, during their other course of study, they might have published some paper in hard copy, and now they might have joined PhD program, they might have joined as a teaching assistant or maybe assistant professors, etc. And they are under pressure for some appraisal to publish some paper, and that too quickly. So because of the pressure, they are not in a position to keep the pace. And then finally, the authors decide to republish his or her own paper, published maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and without changing any new, without changing or without incorporating any new contribution. And as an author, you feel that the publisher will not be in a position to check this, that you have published somewhere. Again, friends, you are mistaken. Somewhere or other, publisher will certainly check it. If not publisher, if not directly the assistants at the publisher level, of course, the reviewers or editor-in-chief or associate editors, somewhere or other will be caught. And publishing our own paper means trying to get second time the credit of our own published paper, for which I have already taken a credit earlier, maybe 4 years, 5 years ago, is a case of self-plagiarism and is also an offense in today's time. So that is the second category of authors. Third category of authors, again, technically very sound author, intellectually very good, but what they do, because again they are in pressure to publish it as early as possible. So what they try to do, the write good paper. Paper is genuine, paper is original, paper is self-written based on the original research, but they are in hurry to publish it. So the moment they have finished paper, immediately they try that within a month or maybe a fortnight, they should the paper should be published, and then finally they land up publishing in some paid journal. So they find any paid journal and get it published quickly, maybe within a month, maybe fortnightly. You open your inbox, mail inbox, you will receive at least 10 of mail every day that publish your paper in a week time, publish your paper fortnightly, and you send your good paper. And if it is a good paper, immediately response will come. Even if it's not a good paper, they will give you some services and then finally charge you money and will publish it. So what in this trap you are coming, that your good paper is being published by so-called predatory publication journal, and then when you will be showing this publication for the purpose of taking credit in any selection committee or any appraisal process, there the senior experts will tell you that this publication is a predatory publication. This is not at least a peer-reviewed journal. This is a blacklisted journal, or you should not have published in this particular journal. And then you will realize that whatever efforts or hard work you have put in to write that paper has gone in waste. And then probably you may not be in a position to even republish that paper anywhere else. So my dear friends, the message here is, this is third type of authors. You have to be careful that your paper is original, the way you have applied your all hard works to write good paper, exactly in the same way you should wait now for publishing it into a good publication, into a good journal. Publishing in a good journal will take minimum 6 months time, if not more. So the time span of publishing in a good journal, maybe reputed journals, vary from 6 months to maybe around 18 months, depending upon the area in which you are working, depending upon the pendency at that respective journal where you are submitting, the exact time will be decided. But certainly no journal, no good journal will be in a position to accept your paper before 6 months, unless until your paper is so foolproof that it gets accepted without any revision, which will rarely happen. So if it is accepted without any revision, you may be lucky enough to get acceptance maybe within 3 months or 4 months time. And the last category in which I wanted all of you, that even this you may not use, but even if you are using, that's not a big problem, because then you are not in any way compromising with the quality of the publication. So the category is, the moment you have completed your paper, submit paper in any good journal and keep trying to find some intimacy to influence the editorial team of that journal for doing some favor. Any good journal will not make you a favor that will publish and under quality publication in that journal, but certainly if you have got some intimacy, they will try to expedite the process. That much help can be done if that is within the scope or within the tracking of that particular editorial team. So submit paper, find intimacy to interact with the editorial team for quick processing of the paper, not quick publication. That much you can do. So these are the 4 various classes in which the authors are. Now it is up to you to decide that in which category you want it. Now the 4th category, which I have mentioned, that submit paper in good publication and then try to find the intimacy with the editorial team, is a very common one, particularly with Indian authors and particularly for Indian publishers. And when we keep on attending the meeting with conducted by our publishers with various editor-in-chief or other journals, then the similar story which I am going to share with all of you is being shared by all of them. And the story is the 4th category of author. And the story says that one fine day, a very senior professor will call me, "Hello, Professor Hoda, I understand that you are editor-in-chief of journal XYZ." And then I will say him, "Yes, sir." The moment I will say him, "Yes, sir," his next sentence is very flattering sentence and which becomes an alarming sentence for me. And he says, "You are doing an excellent work and you must be complimented." "Thank you, sir." So then after, the next sentence is very important, very bold. And then he says that, "I need one favor. My would-be son-in-law has submitted a paper in BJIT having ID so-and-so. I shall be obliged if you kindly accept it. He has to submit his PhD thesis with which his promotion is linked. And then after, I have to marry my daughter with him." So many editor-in-chiefs have given this feedback that they are facing this problem. They are realizing that people are trying to find intimacy. Now, it is not sure that in which journal this technique works, in which journal this technique doesn't work. If it happens at my journal, what I normally do, that at least 3 reviewers are undertaking processing these papers, are reviewing these papers. What I do in this case, I send it to 2 more reviewers and inform them to give the most critical remark, and immediately try to send those critical remarks to the author. If author is sincere enough, they certainly undertake all those changes. And the moment they undertake all those changes, incorporate required changes and send me back the revised paper, I'm happy that I got a good paper, and author is happy that yes, quickly it has been done. And I'm happy because the most critical possible remark was sent and the paper has been improvised a lot. And then I have no reason to reject the paper, rather to accept the paper and publish it. Of course, once I accept it, then it becomes that in which issue it will go. In most of the journals in today's time, they have the 2-way process. One is online publication, second is offline publication. Online publication happens immediately after acceptance of the paper. And offline publication, once the issue will be compiled, then out of the papers available into online domain, the papers will be selected, that which all papers will go this time for offline issue. So maybe say volume 13 number 1 में कौन से पेपर जाएंगे, volume 13 number 2 में कौन से जाएंगे, volume 14 number 2 में कौन से जाएंगे. That all is a part of the editorial team who takes decision. So this works in that particular way. If you are doing, so it is up to you to understand whether to continue doing or not to continue doing, right? Next, which I wanted to share with all of you, is again on the basis of the analysis of these papers and having interaction with all those authors, that why have you written paper like this? So we concluded that there are 2 ways in which the authors in India are doing research. The researchers in India are doing research. And one way which I am presenting here is this. Now, if you are undergoing with your PhD work, or you are planning to do your PhD work, or you have completed your PhD and you are guiding your scholars, it is up to you to take decision that which way, whether first way or second way, you should follow. But mind it that if you are in between a process and you want to change the approach, probably it will be disastrous for you. So whichever way you are undergoing, let's continue with that way. But at least this message should go loud and clear, that when you become the research guide, let's not do it in the way in which it should not have been done. So for that purpose, I wanted to show you, I wanted to discuss with you the two different research approaches, and one approach is in which one fine day after completion of the coursework, now the next job is that scholars need to identify the guide, and then he keeps on talking to various teachers who has got slots available, and one of the teacher finally has accepted, yes, you can do under me, and then the guide has finally been allotted. Few universities might be having a different process, but this is the normal process, right? So once the guide has accepted the student, so one fine day a student went to the guide and said, sir, give me some topic, give me some work so that I can continue it. And then the guide says to him that, okay, I will give you topic some another day, but today what you have to do, take this data set. He has got some data set, maybe in Excel or maybe in some other database. Take this data set, go to the so-and-so lab, conduct an experiment on MATLAB, because he knows that this boy is an intelligent boy. Even if he doesn't know MATLAB, he will talk to someone, will collaborate with someone, and will generate a result. So go to the lab, conduct this experiment in the MATLAB, run this data as input data, test the final result, and I need results by today evening. That's the last sentence which he's telling, which I have written in red color, right? Now I need the results by today evening. Imagine the scholar or the student who approached to the guide was not knowing MATLAB, and then he approached to the guide to take some guidance that what should be the best possible topic, in which domain he should do the research, how to carry out the research. So instead of talking on this, instead of discussing on this, he was given a task by the guide. And in Indian context, the scholar does not have that dare to say no to the guide. So he has taken that data set and okay sir, yes sir कह के वो लैब में वापस आता है. लैब में कुछ बच्चे उनके सीनियर्स वहां पहले से काम कर रहे हैं. उन्होंने देखा बच्चा सर झुकाए वापस आ रहा, कुछ अपसेट्स आए, पूछते क्या हो गया. वो कहता क्या हो गया, ये डेटा मिला है और मोस्ट इंटरेस्टिंगली ये है कि इसको मैटलैब पे एग्जीक्यूट करना है. मुझे मैटलैब आती नहीं और मैं क्या बताऊं, सर ने बताया है कि आज ही रिजल्ट चाहिए. आप सबको ऐसा ही हुआ था क्या? तो बच्चे हंसने लगे और कहते हैं कोई बात नहीं, वी आर हियर टू हेल्प यू. जिन बच्चों को मैटलैब आता था उन्होंने वो डेटा मैटलैब पे एग्जीक्यूट करके रिजल्ट जनरेट किया. अब जो रिजल्ट जनरेट किया वो ग्राफ यहाँ सामने आपको दिख रहा. दैट इज एन स्ट्रेट लाइन having a little deviation in between and then after again a straight line, right? So जैसे ये result generate हो गया, now neither those students are aware that whether it is a good result or bad result, whether the results are in expected direction or results are in some opposite direction, but neither that, nor this student is aware because it's a new topic to them. That these are not, these students, even the seniors or maybe that scholar is not aware of this topic. So they do not know, but have some apprehension whether this result is right or this result is wrong. So they cannot interpret it. But because the guide has said that I need results by today evening, so a scholar has no option but to approach to the guide and say that yes, result is available. So a student, a scholar to the teacher, he went back to the teacher and says him that sir, I have carried out the experiment and here is the final result. He doesn't tell that what is the result. He shows just the graph, right? और जैसे ही वो ग्राफ, जैसे ही वो फाइनल रिजल्ट वो टीचर देखते हैं, टीचर तो बिल्कुल फायर हो जाते हैं. Stupid, why is there a deviation in the response? Use any plotting software and remove the data points so that we get the smooth graph. And I need to publish the result immediately, so bring it just now. Imagine कीजिए एक मैटलैब के रिजल्ट को टीचर बता देगा कि आप इसे प्लॉटिंग सॉफ्टवेयर में ले जाओ, इसे ठीक से रिफाइन करो और लेकर आओ, and then the same result will get published in the paper. And do you think that this kind of publication will be in a position to give you any far-reaching impact in your entire research career? I think you have to relook the entire process. This is one way of doing the research. The second way of doing the research is another way. Teacher to a student, exactly same situation, but teacher to a student, take this data set, conduct experiment on MATLAB and test the final result. When you get meaningful result, then come back to me, take your own time. The last two lines are written in red color. Means the teacher doesn't pressurize him to give the result by today evening. Rather, the teacher tells him that you generate a result, interpret it, and when you feel that there is some meaning in the result, there is some significance in the result, talk to people, collaborate with them, analyze with the help of the review of literature, with the help of the data available, with the help of the other results available in online domain, in journals. And when you find that, yes, result is interesting, result is useful, then come back to me, and you have enough time for this, right? So now a scholar is empowered. He is not in a hurry. He keeps on learning it, keeps on reviewing the literature. And one fine day, after getting entire information, after getting entire review, one fine day he sits and finally generates the result. And when he generates the result, he observes that, oh yes, a straight line, but all authors everywhere or publications, whichever I have reviewed, says a straight line, but my result has got a deviation. And when he starts analyzing it, he analyzes this deviation is some interesting. I haven't seen in any other result this deviation. So he happily comes back to the teacher and says, sir, I have carried out the experiment and the final result is very interesting. I noticed a deviation. जैसे ही बच्चा ये कहता है, the guide is over happy, and guide says to the students, well done, my dear student, well done, my dear son. Focus on the region where you are getting deviation. You may reduce the intervals to improvise the data point so that the deviation becomes better. If it becomes more prominent, I am visualizing an important application of this deviation. We can get it patented and then publish a novel paper, and this paper will probably undo the researches done in this domain in last 50 years. That's the kind of approach with which the guide gives the reaction. Now it is up to you, my dear friends, to realize that which way is more useful, which way you should follow, but you have to take decision in a very practical way. If you are undergoing with your research process, do not change your approach in between. But once you become a guide, once you become a teacher guiding your scholar, certainly understand, unless you give sufficient time to your scholar, unless you ask him to apply his own mindset, he won't be in a position to produce the quality result. And if quality result is not being produced, then irrespective of the fact how many papers you have published, what is the count of your papers, how many citations in beginning you are getting, but probably one paper of someone else will undo all your paper. So let's find out that who publishes that paper first, and can you become the part of that. So that I wanted to sensitize all of you. So it is up to you to again take decision. I am no person to tell you that which one you should take. It's up to you. Next important aspect before going further is what is a research paper? Again, based on multiple definitions you might have heard here and there. Again, based on the analytics generated out of those 50,000 papers, mathematically I have tried to define the research paper. And हम सारे टीचर्स हैं, तो हमारे लिए एग्जांपल ग्रॉस सैलरी और नेट सैलरी, या जो लोग वुड बी स्कॉलर्स हैं वो सब भी आने वाले दिनों में टीचर्स होंगे या कहीं सर्विस करेंगे, तो ग्रॉस सैलरी और नेट सैलरी आप समझते होंगे। मैं उसी टर्मिनोलॉजी में आपको रिसर्च पेपर की डेफिनेशन मैथमेटिकली समझाने की कोशिश करूंगा कि नेट इंफॉर्मेशन कंटेंट ऑफ योर पेपर इज माय नेट सैलरी. So when I'm talking I stands for net information content of your paper. If I is equal to how we define I? So I is defined in a way that gross information content in your paper minus relevant information in the references. जितने references में आपने information दिए हैं वो आपके deductions. तो एक बार आपने gross information से जो references में informations हैं उनको deduct कर दीजिए आपके deductions से. तो deductions के बाद आपका net information content जो आपने पेपर में ऐड किया है वो पता चल जाएगा आपको. So if your information, net information content I is, which is after deducting the information in the references, is strictly greater than 0, then your paper becomes a research paper and is going to have some meaningful contribution, some research contribution. If I is exactly equal to 0, then your paper doesn't make any research contribution, but yes, it can be considered as a survey paper, as a review paper without any further addition to it. But if I is strictly less than 0, then you will have to think, why are you writing this paper? Is it a newspaper article or what? Even if for newspaper article, you have to give the best possible information. It could be a tutorial for a student on some elementary topic, right? So it is up to you to take decision that whether your paper should have I strictly greater than 0, I is equal to 0, or I is less than, strictly less than 0. If I is strictly greater than 0 and you are sure about it, then possibly any good publisher will have interest in your paper. Maybe some mistakes here and there, maybe some grammatical mistakes, maybe some presentation mistake. They will help you to improvise the paper and will give you sufficient time, maybe 1 cycle, 2 cycle, 3 cycle reviews. And based on that, you can correct your paper, improvise your paper, and finally get your paper accepted. If not in that paper, then at least the kind of the input which will be receiving from that review process will help you immensely to improvise the quality of the paper and tomorrow submit to some another journal. Second way, if your I is equal to 0, then many of the research publications who do not publish the review papers or survey paper will reject it, telling that the paper does not qualify to the policy of the journal to be considered for the purpose of review. But if third case is there, that if I is strictly less than 0, then my dear friend, then any of the publisher who has got a little bit of review process in place will outrightly reject this paper, saying that this is a substandard paper. Now, what happens that ensuring that your I is strictly greater than 0, authors start doing manipulations. That is what is the analytics here. That authors will try that if there are 20 papers which are relevant, which I should have referred in my paper. But if I refer, they have conducted review of literature, all those 20 papers have been studied, but they don't want to refer all those 20 papers. They want to refer only, say, 15 papers. They haven't referred 5 papers. Out of the 5 papers, 1 paper is written by the same author, or maybe the group of the authors, in which this author is also one of the author in that group. But he is not interested to refer that paper into the new paper. Why? Because he is afraid of the fact that if I refer these 5 papers, then my information will be deducted. The information available in these 5 papers will be deducted from the gross information, and net information content may be equal to 0 or maybe strictly less than 0. So let me hide these 5 papers, and then if whatever references I have added in my paper, so any of the reviewer will check the information content I, the net value I, based on the references in my paper, and will find it strictly greater than 0, and then my paper will have the probability of its acceptance. If this is your calculation based on your manipulation, my dear friend, you are mistaken. This is not going to work, because the moment they will say, they will go through your review of literature and they will check it online with the software available they have, they will immediately say that the review of literature is not a state of the art. That may be one line comments, one line review comments to you, and paper may be outrightly rejected. Understanding that there could be two interpretations of this, two predictions of this. One, that you are not a state-of-the-art researcher, you do not know how to undertake a review of literature. That's how you miss so important papers. And second, in this process, if the reviewers come to understand that one of the paper which you have excluded is authored by you, or a group of authors in which you are one of the author, then rather the reviewer will put a very strong remark to the publisher that this author may be banned, this author may be blacklisted, this author may be restricted to submit paper in future because he has published a paper in the domain which he has not referred, and he is purposefully, with some objective and with some intention, trying to hide his own paper and has not included. So let's not do that, because now it is an online era in which papers are easily accessible to the reviewers, maybe directly or maybe through the publisher with which they are connected and for whom they are reviewing the papers. So if you are understanding this, let's not do that. This is your misunderstanding, and that will never allow to get your paper accepted. Sometimes few publishers will be very simple, very plain. They may not give you all these feedback, but they will outrightly reject your paper. So whichever is the case, let's not play, let's not manipulate, let's not conceal information. For making I is strictly greater than 0. I is strictly greater than 0 should be achieved through genuine ways, not through manipulated or fabricated or concealed ways, right? So this probably I have made my point, what I wanted to make you clear. Next is which I wanted to sensitize you, a generic process which almost all publishers are following for the purpose of processing papers. This may be little different at different publisher level. What I'm showing here is the process followed by IEEE as well as Springer. So I have clubbed both the input together and have brought it for you. I will send you this slide through which you can go through it. What I will give you a quick overview of this, that all these green boxes which you say are to be undertaken by the author. Yellow boxes, yellow diamond shape, only one diamond shape decision box is to be undertaken or is to be executed by the editor-in-chief assistant. Means if say I'm editor-in-chief of some journal, so I have got 4 or 5 assistants working for me at Springer and at both 3 offices, Springer Chennai, Springer Singapore and Springer Germany. They have distributed tasks amongst themselves and they keep on suggesting me, keep on giving me input based on the processing which they undertake, and I need not to do anything. I have to just take decision. And sometime I have also intimated to them to automate the decision. So in which case what decision is to be taken, so they just update me the taken decision, but they execute on my behalf those decisions, right? And wherever you see saffron color, the saffron color especially I have made because I am talking in Kashmir and saffron is very important ingredient from Kashmir. And I am fortunate to visit Kashmir before imposition of 370 almost every 2 months with to Kashmir University and to Islamic University of Science and Technology. Have been associated with both of them close to almost 15 years together. So saffron is very important ingredient in Valley. So this saffron color I have added, and whichever boxes are with saffron color, these activities are undertaken by editor-in-chief, most preferably by himself. So editor-in-chief himself undertake these activities, right? And wherever you see the purple boxes are executed primarily by the associate editors, assistant editors, or whomsoever the editor-in-chief assigns the work. Now the flow goes like that you have an idea, then you undertake review of literature. I'm moving from here. So you have an idea, then you have a review of literature, then you move to the technology development to develop some model, you develop some framework, you write, you simulate it, and then you see that, oh yes, now my results are coming. Now when the results are coming, let me decide for a journal for which I will be writing a paper. And then you decide that, okay, I will be writing for maybe IEEE transactions on software engineering. So you start reviewing few papers out of the IEEE transactions in software engineering, come to understand कि ये इस तरीके की चीजें हैं जो मुझे IEEE transactions के लिए follow करना है. और otherwise मुझे BVICAM में journal publish करना है तो मैं कुछ papers prior refer कर लूं और मुझे ये follow करना है. Based on that orientation, you start writing a paper, then submit the paper to the journal. This is one way. Second way could be you write paper independent of any consideration of any journal, any publisher. Once you have completed writing paper, then you keep on deciding that which journal I should submit. But I will advise you only to submit to one journal, never ever submit parallelly to 2-3 publications, because that probably many of the publishers will come to know through again the automated software. They keep on alerting to each other, and then finally you will be restricted to submit paper in such journals in future. And the moment you submit a paper, whether the similarity index, which normally we say the plagiarism is nothing but a similarity index. That similarity index may lead to plagiarism, may not lead to plagiarism, is a separate lecture, is a separate discussion that can be discussed in a separate lecture. But at this moment, let's understand that similarity level, similarity index may lead to plagiarism, may not lead to plagiarism. But as a thumb rule, we have understood that anything which has got more than 10% similarity index will lead to plagiarism, and we don't accept it. But anything which leads to less than 10% plagiarism will not lead to plagiarism. That's what as a thumb rule we understand. However, it might be possible that similarity index having 30% may not lead to plagiarism, whereas the similarity index of maybe 8% or 7% may lead to plagiarism. It depends that in which section of your paper, whether it is part of review of literature, whether it is part of research contribution, in which section of your paper that 10%, 8% or 5% similarity index is coming, right? So that's a separate discussion. I will not open up this discussion at this moment. So my editorial assistants, my editor-in-chief assistant checks two things at this moment: whether plagiarism is less than the defined level, 10% normally we check, and ethical compliances are available or not. When I'm talking of ethical compliances, even compliances to that extent, which says that maybe I'm writing paper that I during my observation, I noticed it, or I observed the following. So I'm writing paper in a singular verb, right? So single persons. Whereas the authors are 3, I should have written we. So this implies the authors are 3, whereas the paper has been written in singular way, implies there is somewhere or other the mistake is whether the authors are many and the English has been written poorly, or maybe the authors are only one and a few more names have been added later. So this is also the part of ethical compliance. Second ethical compliance could be that you have mentioned that this paper is a part of a sponsored project or maybe mini project, major project of some university, some UGC or funded by DST, and you have not submitted any compliance form for the purpose of permission and submitted to any journal. So this implies that this is also an ethical compliance. So all these inputs will be alerted, will be noted by my editorial assistants and will be feeded in the system, so that when I will be sitting as an editor-in-chief on the dashboard to take decision, so all these inputs will be reflected to me. If paper has got more than 10% plagiarism or ethical compliances are major, so in some cases the decision is automated, means my editorial assistant can outrightly reject the paper. But in case of my journal, we have not automated that decision. So whatever is there, that input comes to me as part of the dashboard input, but the paper is finally listed to my dashboard. Once it is listed to my dashboard in the software document central, then I have to, as an editor-in-chief, check it that whether the paper is well within the scope of the journal. मुझे simple title देखना है पेपर का, अगर टाइटल से क्लियर नहीं हो रहा तो एब्स्ट्रैक्ट पढ़ना है, एब्स्ट्रैक्ट से क्लियर नहीं हो रहा तो रेफरेंसेस पढ़ना है, रेफरेंसेस से क्लियर नहीं हो रहा तो कंक्लूजन पढ़ना है. टाइटल, एब्स्ट्रैक्ट, रेफरेंसेस और कंक्लूजन, इतने से पता चलना चाहिए. और मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम ये ऑर्डर बदल जाता है. बहुत बार ऑर्डर ऐसा होता है कि सबसे पहले टाइटल, दूसरे नंबर पे रेफरेंस, तीसरे नंबर पे एब्स्ट्रैक्ट, चौथे नंबर पे कंक्लूजन. So TRAC, T stands for title, R stands for references, A stands for abstract, C stands for conclusion, track. अगर ये track पहले T, फिर R references, फिर abstract और फिर finally conclusion. अगर इससे पेपर क्लियर हो जाता है कि पेपर is well within the scope of the journal, implies immediately I will go to the next question. If I come to understand that no, this paper is not within the scope of my journal, I will immediately reject the paper, right? Once I am convinced, yes, it is within the scope of my paper, then I will go to the next step to take decision whether the paper has got sufficient technical content to be reviewed. नहीं तो फिर जो इतने रिव्यूअर्स मैं इनवाइट करूंगा, रिव्यूअर्स अपने एफर्ट्स अंडरटेक करेंगे, those all efforts will go in waste, right? So instead of saving the resources on part of the reviewer, the decision taken by the editor-in-chief has to be very articulative, very precise. So next is the sufficient technical content है या नहीं है पेपर में. अब यहाँ सबसे पहला क्वेश्चन उठता है, बहुत बार आपने रियलाइज किया होगा, आप पेपर सुबह सबमिट करते हैं, शाम तक या अगले दिन या नेक्स्ट टू नेक्स्ट डे या विद इन ए वीक पेपर रिजेक्ट हो जाता है, एंड देन यू रियलाइज कि इतने टाइम में तो किसी ने मेरा पेपर पढ़ा भी नहीं होगा, रिजेक्ट कर दिया. यस, आपका पेपर पढ़ा नहीं गया, या तो वो ये 10% प्लैगियरिज्म के लेवल से रिजेक्ट हो गया है या आउट ऑफ स्कोप की वजह से रिजेक्ट हो गया है. एंड व्हाई? बिकॉज द TRAC, ये जो आपने लिखा, ये बहुत क्लियरली ये फोकस नहीं करता, बहुत क्लियरली ये इन्फ्लुएंस नहीं कर पा रहा एडिटर इन चीफ को कि यस, this paper has got the same, has got the topics, have got the content which is within the scope of the journal. So इसका एक helpful hint है. Helpful hint ये है कि आप अपने references में 4-5 references उस जर्नल के जिस जर्नल में आपने पेपर सबमिट किया है जरूर दीजिए, और वो 4-5 रेफरेंसेस अपने पेपर में जरूर रेफर कीजिए. Once you are doing it, that you have referred few references, few prior publications from the archive of the journal, and also cited that within your paper, then probably most of the editor-in-chief will not look into whether the conclusion has got sufficient content connected to my scope, whether abstract has got sufficient content. From title, the moment he will go to references, and the moment he observes that there are 4 papers cited from my journal, the question becomes very clear that yes, my papers, journals, papers published in my journals have been referred here. This implies certainly this question is yes, that this paper is, the new paper is within the scope of the journal. And the moment it is within the scope of the journal, sufficient technical content also will be addressed, that yes, he has referred 4 or 5 papers from my publication. So certainly it has got a content. So automatically your paper will go to the review process. So if you want in any way to ensure that your paper is not rejected outrightly, you have to have this understanding that I will be ensuring to have few references from the same journal, so that outrightly at least the paper is not rejected. Once it will go for the detailed review, of course the subject expert will review the paper, and depending upon the merit of the paper will give me some input. And even if the subject expert writes some major comments and rejects the paper, editor-in-chief takes interest in that paper and converts that decision of major comments with rejection into a decision of major revision with acceptance, that your paper can be accepted subject to the following major revisions if you undertake. Because editor-in-chief have developed an interest that if this paper is finally revised by the author, submitted to the journal, and is finally accepted based on the revision, based on the quality incorporation in the paper, will get accepted in my journal, will get published, and by default 4 citations, if 4 papers have been referred, 4 citations of my journal are increasing. So he has also got an interest in the paper. So take care of that. That is one of the helpful hints. And then of course the editor-in-chief will invite the associate editor-in-chief for the purpose of review. Maybe around 5 to 10 associate editors are working depending upon the domain. Paper will be assigned to some of the associate editors. Associate editors will invite the reviewers, and reviewers will maybe again 5 to 10 reviewers will be sent the abstract and the details of the paper, not the full paper. The reviewers, whomsoever first 2, 3, 4 reviewers accept, out of the first few accepted reviewers, first 3 reviewers are assigned to review the paper, and then again based on the review comments, the editor-in-chief in discussion with associate editors takes the final decision. And paper may be accepted, may be rejected, and that depends upon the final review comments. And while accepting it, there could be many categories. Accept as it is, which happens very less. Accept with minor revision, which happens too frequently. Accept with a major revision, which happens most of the time. And of course reject paper with major technical comments. And when you are getting major technical comment and the paper is rejected, and if the publisher has not debarred you from submission of the same paper after incorporation of the revision, you may revise the paper, approach to the publisher that can I resubmit the paper, and if they have debarred you to submit the same paper in the same journal, then you may revise the paper and seek another journal and find some another journal and publish there. Then also it is helpful for you. This is the entire process, which in a nutshell, in a brief, I have explained it to you. It could be a full day workshop of the processing papers, right? Now, my next topic is to make you to understand again on the basis of the analysis, on the basis of the same analytics, that what are the common mistakes leading to rejection of a paper. बहुत ही important है, आप सब लोग इसको ध्यान से देखें, क्योंकि ये वो common mistakes हैं जिनके basis पे paper reject होता है. And the first amongst them is, as I have discussed, similarity index. I have already explained that similarity index is not directly proportional to plagiarism. Please do not misunderstand me. I've also told you clearly that it might be possible that 20% similarity index may not lead to plagiarism, whereas 8% similarity index may lead to plagiarism. It depends in which section of your paper, in which content of your paper, which content of your paper, which section of the content of your paper is plagiarized or has got more similarity index. But as a thumb rule, we understand any paper having more than 10% similarity index is part of plagiarized paper. So if we, or maybe major ethical compliances are involved, so we immediately reject the paper. All right. This is one reason why the paper is outrightly rejected most of the time. Second, I have already told you I is strictly greater than 0 must be, and in order to make I strictly greater than 0, prior papers in the same domain are not referenced, whether written by you, the same group of authors in which you are one of the author, or maybe by other peer researchers in the domain. But if you are not referring those papers, it will be considered your review of literature is not state of the art, is not up to the mark, is not exhaustive, and the paper will not get reviewed further. Paper will get rejected. Third important reason is research methodology is not explained explicitly. Very critical point. Once we reject the paper, authors come back to us and tell us, sir, you want us to explain entire research methodology in self-verifiable manner. If we write it, someone will reproduce in some another at some another place, will publish paper prior to me, and I will lose the value, I will lose the credit of this paper. If that is the fear factor, कि अगर आप रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी इसलिए एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर रहे सेल्फ वेरिफिएबल मैनर में कि कोई दूसरा उसे रिप्रोड्यूस कर लेगा, सिमुलेट कर लेगा और सेम रिजल्ट जनरेट कर लेगा और पब्लिश करेगा पेपर, then friends, the solution for you is that you should not submit it for publication, rather you should submit it for patenting, and first get it, first file the patent, then go for submission, so that at least this should not happen with you. But mind it that unless your research methodology is self-reproducible in the laboratory of the reviewer, no reviewer is going to accept your paper. क्योंकि होगा क्या, अगर मैं रिव्यूअर हूं या मेरे जैसे कोई भी सब्जेक्ट एक्सपर्ट रिव्यूअर है, कोई रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी आपने लिखी नहीं है, और मैं जब मेरे स्कॉलर को या मैं उसको मेरी लैब में सिमुलेट करना चाहूंगा, and if I can't simulate, so then I will immediately say that this paper is of no use, let's reject it. And if on the other hand, on the contrary, if I am in a position to simulate, reproduce your research methodology, simulate it in my lab, and then get the execute the data, input data which you have mentioned in your data set which you have mentioned in your paper, get the same result which you have got, then my entire apprehensions are clear, and I will say, oh yes, this paper is a good paper. Now only thing is English presentations, etc., structuring that we have to see, and finally this paper should get accepted. So you must have to incorporate research methodology in a self-verifiable manner. Now research methodology you have already presented, but you are not presenting your measured results. And again, the fear factor is someone else will see my result. When someone else will see my result, they will publish the paper. So you can't hide the result. It is not a game of hide and seek. You can't hide the result. So you have no option but to present this. And once you present this, then only someone will come to know about it. And if you do not present the result, when result is not there, how the novelty of the paper will be judged? So if it is so, get it patented and then come back for the purpose of publication. Results you have added, but results are not a state of the art and no novelty in the result. 5 and 6 both together. So a state of the art means our novelty means your result should be in some or other way better than all the previous and the existing results. So आपको कहीं तो छोटे ग्राफ के हेल्प से, एक टेबल के हेल्प से ये कंपैरिजन प्रोजेक्ट करना पड़ेगा कि 4 स्टेट ऑफ द आर्ट एल्गोरिथम है, 5वीं मैंने प्रपोज की हैं, आप चारों एल्गोरिथम के इन पैरामीटर्स पे जो उन लोगों ने कंसीडर किए हैं रिजल्ट देखें, और मैंने जो मेरी एल्गोरिथम्स के उन्हीं पैरामीटर्स पे रिजल्ट्स निकाले हैं उनका आप देखें, मेरे एल्गोरिथम का रिजल्ट बेटर आ रहा है. If you convince this with the help of the projections made, then only your result will be considered as a state of the art. And finally, you say that your result is novel, you say that your result is better, significantly better, but your claims are not supported by the data. तो आपने किसी एग्जिस्टिंग एल्गोरिथम का जो किसी बड़े पब्लिकेशन में छपा होगा वो रिजल्ट नहीं दिया और अपने रिजल्ट को उससे कंपेयर नहीं किया, तो आपका क्लेम जस्टिफाई नहीं है. एंड व्हेन योर क्लेम इज नॉट जस्टिफाइड, हाउ डू यू एक्सपेक्ट दैट योर पेपर शुड गेट पब्लिश्ड? दैट इज आउट ऑफ क्वेश्चन. सो पेपर विल गेट रिजेक्टेड. एंड लास्टली, वी इंडियंस keep on committing mistake in writing English. So या तो इंग्लिश की ग्रामर में प्रॉब्लम है या यूजेस ऑफ इंग्लिश में प्रॉब्लम है. सो मैं हमेशा एडवाइस करता हूं that in your friend group have one person who knows better English, and at least at the last you ask him to read your paper as a third person and corrects wherever required to correct the English. Never ever use professional services by many available at many portal for the purpose of many websites online for the purpose of correcting your English, because if that you are doing it, many of the publishers have got softwares now to track it, and when they see that your English has been corrected by some professional website or maybe some by AI tools, then they will reject your paper because they have got so many doubts on you. Next is that how this is all, in fact, if you ask me what I have spoken, what I wanted to spoke, and I have given you all analytics, what I wanted to pass on to you, that what are do's, what are don'ts, but we'll give you quickly some more details that if you are writing paper, maybe first time, or maybe planning to write or planning to improvise your paper writing, what are the fundamental tips which you need to keep into the mind. And again, these tips are also, these numbers are also based on the analytics generated out of processing or out of mining those 50,000 plus papers. So first is, as part of well-organized paper, your title should not be a complete sentence or maybe 40 words. Normally, title should be as catchy, as fascinating, but must include everything which you have presented in the paper. And normally we suggest should be less than 12 words, maybe 10 to 15 words is quite okay. Abstract, ideal word size is 100 to 300, depends upon your subject area. You may go even to 500, but whether 100 words or 300 words, what is more important is your abstract must be a structured one. When I'm talking your abstract should be a structured one, I'm talking that what should be answered, how should be answered, and what achievements, what are your achievements in this research. तो आपने क्या किया है, कैसे किया है और क्या पाया है. So क्या किया आपने, कैसे किया और क्या पाया. So what have you done, how have you done, and what are your achievements in this research. ये तीन चीजें अगर 3 सेंटेंस में आपने एब्स्ट्रैक्ट में लिख दी तो भी मेरा काम एज ए रिव्यूअर पूरा होता है, एज ए पब्लिशर पूरा होता है. इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि हमेशा 3 लाइन लिखें आप. इसका मतलब यह है कि एक छोटा सा 2 लाइन का पैराग्राफ आप 3 लाइन का पैराग्राफ व्हाट पे लिखें, अगली 3 लाइन आपको हाउ पे लिखनी चाहिए, या और अगली 2 लाइन में आपको अचीवमेंट लिखनी चाहिए. चूंकि मैंने आपको बताया कि सबसे पहले टाइटल पढ़ा जाएगा, फिर आपका रेफरेंस पढ़ा जाएगा, फिर आपका एब्स्ट्रैक्ट पढ़ा जाएगा, फिर आपका कंक्लूजन पढ़ा जाएगा. 70% ऑफ द टाइम आपके पेपर के बारे में 80% डिसीजन इसी TRAC पे हो जाता है. तो आपको ये बिल्कुल केयर रखना है कि हमें कोई बहुत बड़ा एब्स्ट्रैक्ट लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. Most of the time you might have received input that your abstract is unstructured, means it doesn't give me complete information. How have you undertaken the research? Why should I read your entire paper to understand that how have you undertaken entire research? I should get that information from one of the sentences of your abstract. So that is the way how to write abstract, right? And when I will come to conclusion, I will tell you that what are the differences between abstract and writing abstract and writing conclusion, which you must keep in mind while writing that, right? Introduction is a very difficult aspect. Do not write everything. Never ever have that temptation कि मैंने जितना रिव्यू किया था, जितने मैंने 50 पेपर पढ़े थे सब लिख डालूं. आप उतने लिखो जो आपके पेपर से रिलेवेंट है. इसलिए मैं कहता हूं इट इज द हार्डेस्ट टू राइट. और हार्डेस्ट टू राइट इसलिए कि इसके पीछे लॉजिक ये है, और लास्ट में आप भले पहले लिखें, बीच में लिखें, जब भी इस सेक्शन को लिखें, लेकिन आपका कंक्लूजन फाइनल करने के बाद तो आप वापस एक बार इंट्रोडक्शन पे आए, देखें कि अननेसेसरी चीजें आपने एक्स्ट्रा चीजें इंट्रोडक्शन में क्या लिखी हैं तो वो हटा दीजिए, और देखिए कि मिसिंग कंपोनेंट्स क्या हैं इंट्रोडक्शन में, वो ऐड कीजिए. आपका रेफरेंस तैयार हो जाए, फिर उसके बाद आइए। देखिए कोई तो रेफरेंस ऐसा नहीं है जो साइटेशन में छूट गया, कोई तो साइटेशन ऐसा नहीं है जो रेफरेंस में छूट गया। ये सब आपको ध्यान रखने की चीज है। अगर आप ये ध्यान रखेंगे तो आपका इंट्रोडक्शन ठीक होगा। आइडियल वर्ड साइज हमने 500 to 3000 वर्ड्स की है। ये मैं तब प्रोसेस कर रहा हूं जब आमतौर पे 6 to 8 पेजेस के पेपर की मैं बात कर रहा हूं। अगर आप 8 पेजेस से बड़े पेपर की बात कर रहे हैं तो अकॉर्डिंगली ये साइज बढ़ता चला जाएगा। नेक्स्ट इज of course your research methodology or technical content your entire circuit or your entire research। और मैंने जैसा पहले बताया है आपको कि your research methodology should be written, should be presented in self reproducible and self reverifiable manner। कि कोई भी थर्ड पार्टी, जिसको कोई भी थर्ड पर्सन जिसको आपके सब्जेक्ट डोमेन की जानकारी है, वो आपकी रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी देखकर, आपके सिमुलेशंस को देखकर, आपके सर्किट डिजाइन को देखकर वो अपनी लैब में उसको रिप्रोड्यूस कर ले, आपके टेस्ट डेटा को एग्जीक्यूट करे और वही रिजल्ट उसे मिले जो रिजल्ट आपने प्रोजेक्ट प्रेजेंट किया है। और अगर ये हो गया तो आपका पेपर इमीडिएटली एक्सेप्ट हो जाएगा, आगे कोई बात बचती नहीं है। तो ये बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है जिसे आपको ध्यान में रखना है। कंक्लूजन, मैंने बताया था कि एब्स्ट्रैक्ट और कंक्लूजन में डिफरेंस ये है कि एब्स्ट्रैक्ट और कंक्लूजन ऑलमोस्ट सेम साइज के होते हैं, लेकिन एब्स्ट्रैक्ट में व्हाट आर यू गोइंग टू डू एंड हाउ हैव यू डन दिस, ये लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है। जो एक सेंटेंस हमने अपने अचीवमेंट पे लिखा था उसे थोड़ा इलैबोरेट करने की जरूरत है। मींस कंक्लूजन मस्ट टेल क्लियरली दैट व्हाट आर योर रिजल्ट्स एंड हाउ दैट रिजल्ट्स आर नॉवेल। This is best done with the help of a small table or maybe a small comparison, maybe a quick graphs, quick figures, etc. So ये बहुत क्लियर कंक्लूजन से होना चाहिए। इस पेपर की ये नॉवेल्टी है, इसलिए मैं कहता हूं सबसे पहले टाइटल, फिर रेफरेंसेस और फिर एब्स्ट्रैक्ट और फिर कंक्लूजन। यही आपके पेपर का फेट डिसाइड करेगा कि आपका पेपर एक्सेप्ट होना है या आपका पेपर इमीडिएटली रिजेक्ट होना है बिना किसी रिव्यू प्रोसेस के। और रेफरेंसेस बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, बहुत बड़ा भी नहीं लिखना, बहुत छोटा भी नहीं लिखना, लेकिन ये ध्यान रखना खासकर सभी डोमेन में और खासकर इंजीनियरिंग साइंसेज एंड पर्टिकुलरली इन कंप्यूटर साइंस एज लेटेस्ट एज पॉसिबल। आप 2015 का रेफरेंस अगर कंप्यूटर साइंस के सब्जेक्ट्स में आज दे रहे हैं मशीन लर्निंग में, तो यू आर मिस्टेकन। देखते ही कोई कह देगा रेफरेंसेस आर टू ओल्ड, योर रिव्यू ऑफ लिटरेचर इज नॉट स्टेट ऑफ द आर्ट और नॉट अप टू द मार्क। तो आपको एज लेटेस्ट एज रेफरेंसेस देने हैं। Newer references with the latest results are prefer to older references and कोई जरूरत नहीं है कि आप सब कुछ लिखें कैस्केडिंग तरीके से चेन वैल्यू के तौर पे। अगर एक रेफरेंस ऐसा लिखें जो बाकी पिछले सारे रेफरेंस को कनेक्ट करता हो तो आपका काम चलता है। सो नहीं कि आप 100 रेफरेंसेस लिखेंगे और नहीं कि आप 3 रेफरेंसेस लिखेंगे। तो लेटेस्ट रेफरेंस लिखें और अच्छे पब्लिकेशंस के रेफरेंस लिखें। अगर आप प्रेडेटरी जर्नल्स के रेफरेंसेस लिखेंगे तो विल बी ऑफ नो यूज। तो आपको अच्छे पब्लिकेशंस के रेफरेंसेस लिखेंगे। बहुत बार आपका बेस पेपर कोई आप लेकर चलते हैं तो बेस पेपर भी आप अपना किसी अच्छे पब्लिशर का डिसाइड कीजिए। जो हेल्पफुल हिंट है दैट आई हैव ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन इट टू यू, गिव फ्यू रेफरेंसेस फ्रॉम द ओल्ड फ्रॉम द आर्काइव ऑफ दैट पब्लिकेशन ऑफ द जर्नल। एंड ये ध्यान रखिए कि ट्रैक का ख्याल कीजिए, टाइटल, रेफरेंसेस, एब्स्ट्रैक्ट एंड कंक्लूजन। सारे को ऑथर पेपर को पढ़ें और कम से कम एक थर्ड पर्सन को पेपर पढ़ने को जरूर लगाइए जो आपके पेपर की प्रेजेंटेशन, आपके पेपर के इंग्लिश को ठीक कर दे। और अपना पेपर सबमिट करने से पहले जो कोई भी सॉफ्टवेयर आपको एक्सेसिबल है, ऐड टू रिपोजिटरी, उसका अनचेक करके कि वो किसी रिपोजिटरी में ऐड ना हो जाए, उसे आप जरूर स्कैनर पे, प्लगइन्स में स्कैनर पे चेक कीजिए। देखिए आपके पेपर का सिमिलरिटी इंडेक्स लेस देन 10% होना चाहिए। दैट इज अ वे इन विच यू कैन एटलीस्ट give a confidence to the editorial assistant that my paper is up to the mark and worth reviewing. And of course ethical compliances की बात मैंने की है, depending upon requirement आप ethical compliances कर सकते हैं। If you are missing ethical compliances, possibly your paper may get outrightly rejected. To me as editor-in-chief, this is one of the mail which I am showing it to you. That is mail is from 2017, that on one fine day, maybe on June 13, 2017, Springer processed 11 papers which were submitted to my journal, and recommendation, it is not a decision which they have taken, it is an analytics based recommendation, and analytics they are giving it to me, and what they are suggesting to take decision will be taken by me as an editor-in-chief, but what they are suggesting to me that okay to proceed is 0 out of 11 papers, do not proceed is 1, revision is required in 3 papers. And before undertaking revision or before putting it in revision loop, the ask for clarification because of minor ethical compliances probably is 7. So this implies after processing 11 papers, the my editorial assistant, with the help of the software which they have, is suggesting me an analytics and says to me that there are no papers out of 11 which is okay to proceed further, right? So, and while doing it, I'm giving you a tips that bibliographies are excluded while the reports were generated on Authenticate, and any small matches means words up to 19 words, 19 consecutive words were not caught as part of the plagiarism. So less than 20, strictly less than 20 words were excluded out of the plagiarism check. So after that only the plagiarism criteria will apply. This is one of the report. There are many such reports every day. This kind of mails come to me, and then based on that, I open the dashboard, check this report, and based on that take decision that what I have to do. And believe me, 70% of the time decision goes what the analytics have been shown to me with the help of these mails, and exactly the same analytics of daily basis is available on my dashboard of the my publisher, right? By now, many of you might be having access to Turnitin, Authenticate. You can generate report on Turnitin, Authenticate, and come to know that what is the plagiarism level, overall plagiarism level, what is the plagiarism level from the single sources. And many of you might be having accesses through your universities, but I still do not have confidence in Orkunt, which UGC has recommended to many of the universities. So if you have an access to Turnitin or maybe Authenticate, that's a better way to check it, because the database which Turnitin and Authenticate are using are same and has got an exhaustive database of entire world, that's globally using taking clue from the cross check. And Orkunt and other softwares, Plagiscan, etc., which are open source softwares, do not have such an exhaustive database. So similarity index software which has got higher database can only give you better results, right? And my suggestion to all of you is, whether you are a teacher or you are a student, be a network teacher or network a student, because that is the value today. But whatever is, whether network teacher or network a student, be passionate teacher. And all of you know what the passion is. आप सब IEEE के साइट पे जा सकते हैं, गूगल चेक कर सकते हैं, पैशन की डेफिनेशन समझ सकते हैं. मैं बशीर बद्र की एक बड़ी गजल है, उस गजल की चार मिसरे पैशन को डिफाइन करने के लिए, पैशन को सिमुलेट करने के लिए उन्होंने कही है, जो आपको सुनाना चाहूंगा. कैसे पैशनेट रिसर्चर चाहिए. अगर आप पैशनेट रिसर्चर हैं तो आप अपने पेपर के एक एक वर्ड, एक एक सेंटेंस का ख्याल करेंगे, और कोई भी जो कमेंट आपको पेपर के बारे में दिया जाएगा वो आप सीरियसली लेंगे. आपको ऐसा लगेगा ये मेरे पेपर की क्वालिटी इंप्रोवाइज होगी इससे. आई मस्ट अंडरटेक रिवीजन. यू विल रिवाइज इट and you will submit in the same journal if journal permits you to submit it again. So you must be a passionate researcher, and that's how I keep saying that जो बशीर बद्र की गजल है वो यूं कहती है, कश्ती, मैं गजल की शुरुआत भूल रहा हूं, अभी याद आने से आपको बताऊंगा. कश्ती के मुसाफिर ने समंदर, हाँ, आंखों में रहा दिल में उतर कर नहीं देखा. बड़ी गजल है, मतलब मुझे लग रहा है शायद 8-9 मिसरे की गजल है. इसमें से पहली चार मिसरे आपको बता रहा हूं कि आंखों में रहा दिल में उतर कर नहीं देखा, कश्ती के मुसाफिर ने समंदर नहीं देखा. लोग ऑन द फ्लाई काम करते रहे. जो कश्ती में घूमेंगे वो समंदर की गहराई तक पढ़ निकाल नहीं सकते. तो पैशनेट पीपल समंदर की गहराई तक जाते हैं पढ़ निकालने के लिए. वो सिर्फ ऑन द फ्लाई काम नहीं करते कि आंखों में रहा दिल में उतर कर नहीं देखा, कश्ती के मुसाफिर ने समंदर नहीं देखा, जब से चला हूं मंजिल पे नजर है मेरी, राह में कभी मील का पत्थर नहीं देखा. पैशनेट पीपल ऐसे होने चाहिए जिनके लिए कोई बेंचमार्क नहीं है, जिनके लिए कोई माइलस्टोन नहीं है. You have to just mean that you have to beat the unbeaten benchmark, travel the untraveled path, and move further. That should be your passion, which should drive you always. And all these social media sites, which maybe a decade ago we used to say that these social media sites must be restricted, must be banned in academia, are becoming the new age learning tools. So we must utilize it, but utilize it for the academic purposes. Utilize it for the purpose of collaboration with fellow colleagues from across across the peer domain. And my final message is whatever we have done by now. Failure, because failure is not when you fall down, but when you fail to get up. And success is not when you succeed to get up, but how quickly you get up. And these were the sites which I have used. I will send you, I saw a few comments of sending the PPT. I will certainly send you the PPT. I will send it to Dr. Gulfam. He will circulate it in the entire team. These are my contact details. Those, if you have any WhatsApp group, add me in that WhatsApp group. These are my mail IDs. My first mail ID is official one, but response will be quick on that ID. Second mail ID is Gmail ID, but response will be slow on that ID. So as and when you feel you need to connect, you have any doubt, you have any query, you are most welcome to connect to me. I will be more than happy to address to your concerns. It is all whether we survive with the help of the networking. So it's the only network which will help us to flourish, or otherwise we should be ready to get perished. And finally, with this note, I would like to end before question answer is started, that entire process is to bring light from darkness, from entire process is to bring knowledge from ignorance, कि हमें knowledge era में लाना है, हमें रोशनी में लाना है अंधेरे से, जहालत के अंधेरे में नहीं होना है, हमें ignorance में नहीं रहना है। तो एक चार मिसरे हैं जो हमेशा मुझे बहुत फेवरेट होते हैं कि उजाले अपनी आंखों में महफूज कर लो। आंखें इसलिए कि वो इंटीग्रल कंपोनेंट है पर्सनालिटी का, मींस की पावर ऑफ नॉलेज एज इंटीग्रल पार्ट ऑफ योर पर्सनालिटी, बिकॉज दिस पावर ऑफ नॉलेज विल alone help us to fight whatever challenge come before us, right? तो इसीलिए कहते हैं कि तालीम ही सारे प्रॉब्लम्स का हल है, कि उजाले अपनी आंखों में महफूज कर लो, बड़ी दूर तक रात ही रात होगी। चैलेंजेस बहुत होंगे इन एब्सेंस ऑफ नॉलेज, रात ही रात का मतलब अंधेरे में चैलेंजेस बहुत होंगे इन एब्सेंस ऑफ नॉलेज। उजाले अपनी आंखों में महफूज कर लो, बड़ी दूर तक रात ही रात होगी। मुसाफिर हो तुम भी, मुसाफिर है हम भी, किसी मोड़ पे फिर मुलाकात होगी। थैंक यू सो मच माय डियर फ्रेंड्स। आई हैव स्टॉप्ड शेयरिंग इट नाउ। इफ यू हैव क्वेश्चन, you are most welcome to unmute and ask me, or if someone is coordinating, they can do that.
Sir, excuse me.
Oh yes, please.
Yes, if you can allow me, I will complete the share of Bashir Badr, whatever you
I've left छह पंक्तियां जो मैंने छोड़ दी, please.
Yes.
Please.
आंखों में रहा दिल में उतर कर नहीं देखा, कश्ती में मुसाफिर ने समंदर नहीं देखा, बेवक्त अगर जाऊं सब चौक पड़ेंगे। Correct. इस उम्र हुई कभी मैंने घर नहीं देखा, जिस दिन से चला हूं मेरी मंजिल पर नजर है, आंखों ने कभी मील का पत्थर नहीं देखा। ये फूल मुझे कोई विरासत में न मिले, तुमने मेरी कांटों भरा बिस्तर नहीं देखा। Myself Fayyaz Ahmad, I am from Jamia Millia Islamia. I am assistant professor in department of computer engineering.
Thank you so much. ये बिल्कुल जो एक मिशन मोड में काम होता है, उस मिशन मोड को जस्टिफाई करता है।
ओके, थैंक यू सर।
जी, मैं इनफैक्ट भूल रहा था, मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा था, लेकिन मैंने कहा मैं पैशन पे बता ही दूं, क्योंकि आजकल हम सारे लोगों को पैशन की जरूरत है और हम अपने काम पे गामजन रहें।
यस।
Dear participants, if anybody else want to ask any query, please, sir is available. You can ask.
Sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, can you elaborate on the using AI tools in correcting grammars?
देखो, if you want to write your paper using AI tool, I will not suggest you.
Like correcting grammars, like we have wrote, but we want to correct. We use AI tool for correcting, just for correcting.
What happens that once you use AI tools, they correct grammar in a very ideal way.
Yes.
As a human being, as an Indian researcher, we never write an ideal grammar.
Yes.
So the moment editorial assistants check that, because now Turnitin Authenticate has got grammar component also active, that additional API is active. The moment check it, they see, oh yes, plagiarism 0%, grammar all okay. How that can be? So must be paper must be auto-generated. So most of the time paper is rejected from there. So my advice will be that even if you check it, you utilize it, it's only for your understanding. It is to make your own understanding of grammar, your own understanding of presentation better. But if you are using always that, so even a 0% plagiarism and 0% defect is considered as a major concern, and then the paper is being rejected. So behave as a normal person, write a little bit correction is allowed. Little bit people will point you that these are few corrections. So at least you are avoiding the outrightly rejection loop. That's my suggestion to you.
Okay, sir. One more question, sir. For references, sir. What about references? Like how many references should we use? And you said that we can use a reference paper that have referenced previous paper. Can you
yes. You should use it. The papers which have got all prior references, and there is no direct count that whether you should use 10, 15, 20. But ideal size should be between any number between 10 to 20 or 25. The decision depends upon that what is your area, and in which area, whether referring 10 papers refers all prior researches or referring 20 papers refer all prior researches. Second, that whether referring 20 papers makes your review of literature state of the art or still something is missing. So if something is missing, you must refer that additional paper. So it is all dependent on your own subject, on your own area, that in which subject, on which topic you are working, and how many papers should be necessary and sufficient to be referred. But just for the purpose of references, do not refer such paper which has already been referred in turn by some other paper which you are in any way including in your paper. And then give advantage or preference to the papers having latest publications, right?
So, sir, if we reference the paper, we should not reference the previous paper. In the paper one, it was referenced that in 2015, it referenced the 2015. Like we do not need to make a ladder out of it. We just have to reference and we use the knowledge from it, right?
You are right.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Any other question?
I think that there is no question from the participants. So thank you very much, sir, to accept the invitation on a quick response, sir. And inshallah, we will invite you in the green and lush campus, Baba Ghulam Shah Badshah University, while we will be organize some program in the offline mode, sir.
Sure. Inshallah. Take care. Allah Hafiz.
Nazmuni, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for such an innovative session. Now it's time to call our next resource person, Professor MMS Beg. But before calling him, let's have a look over his biography. Professor M. Sufiyan Beg obtained his BTech electronics degree from Aligarh Muslim University, India in 1992 with first rank. He obtained his MTech microelectronics degree from IIT Kanpur, India in 1994. Thereafter, he joined the Department of Electronics Engineering, Aligarh Muslim University, India as a member of the faculty. He has been a lecturer, a senior lecturer, and then a reader in the Department of Computer Engineering at the same university. While on study leave from there, he obtained his PhD degree in the area of computer technology from IIT Delhi, India in 2004. He also visited the University of California as a BT fellow from November 2005 to October 2006. He served as a professor at the Department of Computer Engineering at Jamia Millia as Central University, New Delhi from March 2007 to 2014. Over there, he also served as the head of the Department of Computer Engineering from February 2008 to February 2011. Currently, he is a professor and a chairman at the Department of Computer Engineering at the Aligarh Muslim University. He is also serving as a principal of Zakir Hussain College of Engineering and Technology since August 2015. Professor Beg has published a book, 29 book chapters, and over 165 research papers on a wide range of topics in web mining and soft computing. He has also been an invited lecturer at many places in USA, UK, KSA, Pakistan, and India. Professor Beg was awarded the University Gold Medal for standing first at BSc examinations. He has also bagged twice the Best Paper Awards and the High Quality Presentation Awards each. Professor Beg has served as a reviewer and has been on the board of many journals and conferences of repute. His current research interests are in the areas of parallel and distributed processing, soft computing, question-answer systems, natural language processing, web mining, and searching. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good to see Professor Hoda after a long time.
जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम बेग साहब.
वालेकुम अस्सलाम. कैसे हैं आप? खैरियत से हैं?
अल्लाह का शुक्र है, दुआएं आपकी. आप खैरियत से हैं सर?
Yeah. I know it's a very challenging task to speak after you.
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं. You have your own scholarship.
So I'll just try to do my best. So let me share my screen and then we get started. Okay. Can somebody tell me if my screen is visible?
Yes, sir, visible.
Very good. So the topic that I'm going to discuss today is Precisiated Natural Language for question answering systems. So this word precisiated is, strictly speaking, not a dictionary word. And that is why whenever we type it in MS Word, you will see a red line below it, because it's not a valid dictionary word. But this term has been coined by a legendary researcher and the father of fuzzy logic, Professor Lotfi Zadeh, late Professor Lotfi Zadeh, with whom I had the good opportunity to work for a year while I was a postdoctoral fellow at the University of California at Berkeley. So let me briefly get into the origin of this word, precisiation or precisiated. So basically it means that how to make something precise, which inherently is imprecise, but we are going to make it precise, because unless we make it precise, there is no way that we can go for making it computable. Recall the very first lecture in algorithms that you must have attended. The very first thing that is taught about algorithms is that it has to be non-ambiguous. Algorithm can never be ambiguous. So that is one of the main reasons why any algorithm that needs to be coded has to be made non-ambiguous. But as human beings, we are very ambiguous. In fact, the word very is itself ambiguous. Large, very large. What does that mean? Small, very small. Extremely small, quite small. These are all very ambiguous words that we use. So how to make those things precise in order to make them computable, right? So let us proceed with the discussion. Conceptual structure of precisiated natural language, in short, PNL, is going to be described. And the role of precisiated natural language is being outlined and illustrated by examples in three very main and interesting areas: knowledge representation, deduction, and concept definition. How to represent knowledge, how to deduce things, and then how to define a concept. These are very challenging areas, but as my discussion will proceed, you will see that using PNL, I may be able to make some inroads into these challenging problems. So what should be understood is that what we are going to talk about is still in its initial stages of development. The exposition which follows is an outline of the basic ideas which underlie PNL rather than a definitive theory. It is far from being a definitive theory, but definitely it is an area which has received a lot of attention in the recent times. So that is why so natural language, as I said, is imprecise in nature. And NL is basic system for describing perceptions. For example, perceptions of distance, height, weight, color, temperature, similarity, likelihood, relevance, and most other attributes of physical and mental objects are intrinsically imprecise. He is tall. What do you mean by tall? Right? Or as I started with the example of the algorithm, if I'm writing an algorithm and I write take a few steps and loop back. Obviously, the computer will miserably fail. By a few steps, do you mean 6 steps, 7 steps, 8 steps? What precisely do you mean, right? So likewise, distance, it is far from here. What do you mean by far from here? He is obese. Talking about weight, he is obese. What do you mean by obese? He is fair complexion. What do you mean by that? It's very hot today. The similarity, likelihood, all these are matters of perception. The imprecision of natural languages is a direct consequence of the imprecision of perceptions. Somebody might look to me as a tall person, another one might judge him as not that tall, or short, or middle height, and so on. So there is a need for precision of natural language. As I said, making the natural language precise, which is inherently imprecise. So how can a natural language be precisiated? Precisiated in the sense of making it possible to treat propositions drawn from a natural language as objects of computation. There is a big gap. Computer on one side and human beings on one side, right? Human beings are imprecise by their very nature. If I'm teaching a class and there is a student sitting at the back row, I'll say, take a few steps forward. Most probably, I'm not going to tell him, take 6 steps forward, 5 steps forward. I'll say, take a few steps forward. The student will be able to comprehend what do I mean with that. And he'll definitely take a few steps forward by judging the distance between him and me, by judging the size of the class, by judging at the distance, at the number of rows in the class, and so on, right? So this gap, human beings who are imprecise by their very nature, and computer which has to be very precise by its very nature. This gap can be filled by the concept of PNL, right? That I'm going to talk about. PNL. This is what Precisiated Natural Language attempts to do, make it computable. Precisiation is accomplished through translation into what is termed a precisiation language. In case of PNL, the precisiation language is the generalized constraint language that I'll be discussing shortly. GCL is a language. Generalized constraint language is a language whose elements are so-called generalized constraints and their combinations. What distinguishes GCL from languages such as Prolog, Lisp, SQL, and more generally, languages associated with various logical systems, for example, predicate logic, model logic, is its high expressive power. GCL is having a much higher expressive power because it encompasses under its umbrella the non-ambiguous words as well. Ambiguous words are the non-ambiguous words are there anyway. There is this very interesting concept, or let me say, debate between partiality and granularity. Partiality relates to the fact that most human concepts are not bivalent. They are a matter of degree. We have partial understanding, partial truth, partial possibility, partial certainty, partial similarity, partial relevance, etc. We are not always expected to give the answer in true or false. Mr. X is tall. You cannot say true, you cannot say false either. What you will say instead is that yes, you are true to a certain degree, to a degree 0.9, right? That is what partiality means. Granularity and granulation relate to clumping of values of attributes, forming granules or groups with words as labels. For example, young, middle-aged, old, as labels of granules of age. So partiality and granularity, they appear to be contradictory terms. But using PNL, we are going to combine these two concepts, right? Granularity and partiality, they are going to be combined. Young age may be 0 to 20, I'll say young age, or 0 to 25, I'll say young age. 25 to 50, I'll say middle age. And 50 onwards, I would say getting old, right? See, existing approaches to natural language processing, they are based on bivalent logic, a logic in which shading of truth is not allowed. You are forced to say either true or false, on or off. There cannot be anything in between in bivalent logic. So PNL abandons bivalence. And why does it do so? By so doing, PNL frees itself from limitations imposed by bivalence and categoricity. And number two, this is number one. Number two, it opens the door to new approaches for dealing with long-standing problems in AI and related fields. So NLP is going to help me in a long way towards the solution of problems which have been standing in AI for a long time. Now let me give some sample data. Product description, ideal for the home small office. Airway allows you to link a number of telephones, so on, so on, so on. Then there are sample question. What is an airway? Simple, right? You will say airway allows you to link a number of telephones, computers, and fax machines into a single system without internal telephone wiring. You just picked it up. The answer to this question is synthesize. Can I connect fax machines to the airway? Yes, you can do that, right? What are data sockets? Again, you will pick up this thing. Data sockets are used to so on, so on, so on, right? How many handsets can I connect to one controller? 16 handsets. What does the controller do? Again, you can synthesize the answer. So that appears to be a straightforward question answering system. Likewise, if I have a complaint and a response, what error is being reported? You can synthesize answer from this. What is the solution? You can again get the answer. What is Packard Hell? You know, you will say that it's not Packard Hell, it is Packard Bell, and so on, right? So that is how you can synthesize answer. Now, this is something which is challenging. I'm planning to drive from Berkeley to Santa Barbara with a stopover for lunch in Monterey. Life is simple. Now it becomes complicated. Usually it takes about 2 hours to get to Monterey. What do you mean? What do you mean by usually? What do you mean by about 2 hours? Then again, usually it takes about 1 hour to have lunch. It is likely that it will take about 6 hours to get from Monterey to Santa Barbara. At what time should I leave Berkeley to get to Santa Barbara with a high probability before about 6 p.m.? Imprecise words have started coming in. Now, if I'm trying to synthesize a simplified version, W, which is the distance, right? 2 hours. 2 hours to get to Monterey from Berkeley. That is W. X is time for taking lunch, right? But it is not 1, it is about 1, it is about 2. 6 hours from Monterey to Santa Barbara. Again, this is about 6. Now, Z is W plus X plus Y, which is usually about 9. Or more precisely, I can say that this is usually about to the power 39, because about is being used thrice, right? Now, my question is, 6 p.m. means 18. So 18 minus Z is what? And again, about 18 minus Z is what? Gets complicated because we are working with the imprecise words. And that is the problem we are looking at. So information may be measurement based, which is numerical. It is 35 degrees Celsius, EVA is 28, probability is 0.8. Perception based or linguistic based, it is very warm, EVA is young, probability is high, it is cloudy, traffic is heavy, it is hard to find parking near the campus. They're all very perception-based linguistics. Measure-based information, measurement-based information may be viewed as a special case of perception-based information. Just as binary logic is a special case of fuzzy logic, likewise, perception-based is more generic, of which this becomes a subset. Measurement-based becomes a subset. So that is when we are forced to move towards computing with words. The primary objective of computing with words is mechanization of reasoning and computation with propositions drawn from a natural language. A prerequisite to computing with words is precisiation of meaning. You cannot go about computing with words unless you are able to precisiate. I give this example. About 18 minus 6, z is what? I am computing with words. I need to compute about, right? I need to compute z even. Z is usually about 9, right? So I have to do computing with words. So that I won't be able to do unless I have the tools for precisiation of meaning. Precisiation of meaning is the province of precisiated natural language, as I've been saying. Informally, precisiation of a proposition P involves expressing the meaning of P in a mathematically well-defined form so that it can be computed. Any proposition, if you're able to put it in a mathematically well-defined form, your job is done. So NL on one hand and mathematics on the other end, you have to bridge this gap using PNL. This is the gap that has to be bridged. And that can be done using a generalized constraint, which I'll introduce shortly. The concept of a generalized constraint is the centerpiece of PNL. So we need to understand GCL very well, because unless and until we understand that, we won't be able to understand how natural language can be precisiated. A word of caution, precisiation of meaning is not equivalent to understanding of meaning. You must have heard the sentence, I understand what you said, but can you be more precise? Suppose I said it's a cloudy day. So I understand what you said, but can you be more precise? The traffic is very heavy. I understand what you said, but can you be more precise? It's a very hot day. I understand what you said, but can you be more precise? All these used with adequate ventilation, unemployment is high, most Swedes are tall, most Swedes are much taller than most Italians. Overeating causes obesity, complicated, obesity itself, and then overeating. What do you mean by overeating? What do you mean by obesity? Likewise, causality, relevance, bear market, mountain, edge, approximately 5, they're all fuzzy concepts. So we need to have a bivalent constraint that which is hard, inelastic, categorical. It puts you in either this category or that. Remember that old statement, you are with us or with them. Bivalent, you are being inelastic. Can't there be anybody who is in between? So X, and this is the constraining bivalent relation. In contrast, a generalized constraint is generally represented, is in a generic form represented as X is R or, where X is the constraint variable, R is the constraining non-bivalent fuzzy relation, and this small r is the index of modality, which defines semantics. I'll explain each of these terms very well. Just hold on. This R can be belongs to, equal to, less than equal to, greater than equal to, subset of, so on, so on. It can either be blank or it can have so many other forms, including rough sets, fuzzy graphs, veracity, all that. I'll explain all of them. First, so remember this form. X is R. This is the general form of GCL. X is small r, capital R. Now, what does that all mean? X can be an n-ary variable itself. X may be a proposition, Leslie is tall. X may be a function of another variable. I'll give examples of all of them. X is conditioned on another variable, X given Y. X has a structure like location of residence of Carol. X may be a generalized constraint itself. X is a group variable. In this case, there is a group, name 1, name 2, name and so on. With each member of the group, name 1 associated with an attribute value, HI of attribute H. HI may be vector value. So symbolically, it may be name given H1. name n for hn, right? Or gh is a relation and gh is a fuzzy restriction of gh. For example, tall Swedes. So Swedes height is tall. So a function of another variable. So this x has been described. Now let me move on to small r. This is small r. It may be an equality constant. X is equal to r. X is less than equal to r. X is a subset of r, or x is r. Keep it blank. You can also keep it blank. V may be veristic constant. P may be probabilistic constant. X is probably r, right? Likewise, bimodal constraint, random set constraint, fuzzy graph constraint, usuality constraint, group constraint. I'll give you a few examples. Possibilistic X is R, probabilistic X is probably R, veristic X is veristically R. Primary constraints are formalization of three basic perceptions: perception of possibility, perception of likelihood, and perception of truth, right? In this perspective, probability may be viewed as an attribute of perception of likelihood. Probability is nothing but perception of likelihood. It might rain today. It will probably rain today. So that is my perception. So Monica is young, which means age of Monica is young. So this will be X, and this is R. Small r is blank. So this all will be X, and this is capital R, and this small er is small r. Most Swedes are tall. So sigma count, tall Swedes divided by the number of Swedes is most. So average height of Swedes is tall, right? It may be a distributed random variable with mean m and variance sigma square. For example, X is probabilistically P1 with a probability U1, P2, U2, P3, U3, and so on. Veracity, Robert is half German, quarter French, and quarter Italian. What does this mean? Which means one of the parents of Robert is German, pure German. The other parent is having his or her parent as one of them being French and the other Italian. So what I can say, ethnicity of Robert is veristic. There is 0.5 German, 0.25 French, and 0.25 Italian. So this is the veristic way. Robert resided in London from 1985 to 1990. This is, you see, this is all natural language, and I'm converting them into generalized constant language. So reside Robert London is veristic 1985 to 1990. Association process. How do I do all that? For that, I need to begin with simplified natural language. What is simplified natural language? It should have simple sentences. Simple sentence is the one which has just one verb. Because if there are more than one verb, it is not a simple sentence, it will become a compound sentence. So first of all, we need to make the natural language simplified natural language by breaking it in verbs. That may have a verb, that may have a subject, that may have an object. Object is optional in the case of non-transitive verbs. You all know transitive verbs, non-transitive verbs. Like X beats Y, right? So beats is a transitive verb. We need to have an object. But X is running. It is a non-transitive verb, doesn't need an object. In fact, we may not even need a subject. Go is a complete sentence, right? It doesn't have any object, it doesn't have any subject, but the verb has to be there. When I'm saying go, it is a complete sentence. It doesn't require any explanation further. So first step is begin with simplified natural language and then look for protoforms. These are some of the protoforms that we have identified in GCL. X is A. The more generalized form is X is RA. Y is X plus B, which is a variation of X is A. Why do I keep that variation? It will become more prominent when I talk about the examples. QAs are Bs. Q1 into Q2 A's are B and C's, Fx is A. So you can see that all these four are basically the variation of this simple form. X is A. Over here, Y becomes X, X plus B becomes A. QA's are B's. So basically QA's is X, A, and R is the form of A's. Q1 into Q2 A's are B and C's. So this becomes X, this becomes A, X and A, and this R is the variation of A's. Fx is A. Over here, Fx is representing X and A is A only. So these four remaining ones are basically variation of X is A, but they are useful nevertheless. That is why that variation is worked upon. The concept, what is the concept of a protoform? These five protoforms that I talked about, what is the concept? Precisiation is not the ultimate objective. Basically, precisiation is a prerequisite to mechanization or automation of reasoning and deduction. In PNL, a concept which plays a key role in deduction is that of protoform, which is an abbreviation of prototypical form. Just as what is internet? Internet is interconnection of networks. In short, we call it internet, right? Bit, what is bit? Binary digit, in short, is bit, right? Similarly, prototypical form, instead of taking such a long name, we have abbreviated it as protoform. So a protoform of a proposition or a collection of propositions is an abstracted summary. Remember, three problems that I gave in the beginning: deduction, right? Concept definition, knowledge representation. Remember that slide? I'm sure you are taking notes. So those three problem areas are deduction, and the third one, knowledge representation, deduction, and concept definition. So if you have these protoforms and you just combine those protoforms, that will give you the abstracted summary. Take a piece of text, do the prototypical form extraction, put them together, that will be the summary of that document. Summarization becomes easy. So NL and GCL, in between you have to have the step of precisiation or translation from NL into GCL, right? Example, Carol lives in a small city near San Francisco. A natural language sentence. How can you put it in the form of a protoform? X will be location of residence of Carol. Is R, where R is near city and small city. Small city near San Francisco, right? So Carol lives in a small city near San Francisco. So X will be the location of residence of Carol is near city and small city. So the first step was converting the natural language into simplified natural language. Then we have to deduce one of those five protoforms. In order to do that, we have to do the part of speech tagging. There are standard taggers available. If any one of you have worked on them, Stanford tagger is one of them. It is a part of speech tagger. Takes a sentence or a file and tags according to Pennsylvania tree bank tag set, wherein 36 part of speech tag set and 12 other tags for punctuation and special symbols, a total of 48. For example, if I give to a part of speech tagger, the input airway is ideal for the home or small office. The output of the part of speech tagger would be airway tagged as a proper noun, as a is as verb, ideal as again a proper noun. Why? Because I have written it in capital I. Had it been a small I, it would have come out to be a common noun. For the determiner, home noun, or conjunction, small adjective, office, again noun. So that will be the first step after simplified natural language. After simplifying the natural language, wherein there is just one verb in the sentence, you do the part of speech tagging. These are some of the tag sets. NNP is proper noun, VBZ is verb, third ing form, present participle as we say, preposition, determiner, noun, coordinating conjunction, adjective, and this is the sentence final punctuation. Okay. Now, after having part of a speech tagging, we have to identify the subject, the verb, and the object phrase. For that, we can write a class, sentence phrase class in Java or whatever, any object-oriented language. Integer field for any error when no verb at all. Suppose I give a sentence where nowhere I'm getting the tag as VB. Remember this VB? It gives you the verb, right? It gives the verb. Like here I have shown verb. So suppose I give a sentence wherein no VB tag is returned, I should rather return an error because there is no verb. It is not a sentence at all. And then there are three string fields, one for subject, verb, and object. I want to extract. So I write a method, sentence phrases, extract phrase is the method, wherein the tagged string go as an argument. This extracts the subject phrase, verb phrase, and the object phrase from a given simple sentence, which has already been tagged in accordance with the Pennsylvania tree bank tag set. So this method is going to accept as input the tagged string, right? And from those tags, it will try to extract the subject phrase, verb phrase, object phrase, if any, or return -1 if there is error or there is the absence of verb phrase. Verb phrase between the first and last occurrence of VB also includes models like will, shall, should, etc., if any. Subject phrase, all before verb phrase will be the subject phrase. Object phrase, if any, all after the verb phrase will be the object phrase. For example, this is the tag proposition that is going into extract phrase method, right? So it will try to identify the first occurrence of VB, right? So the first occurrence of VB is here. So this allows linking will be extracted as the verb phrase. All what is before it, that is airway, that will come as the subject. And all what is after this, that will come as the object, a number of telephones. So airway allows linking a number of telephones, goes into the part of speech tagger. It comes out with these tags. And when these tags are given to my extract phrase method, I'll be able to identify the verb phrase, the subject phrase, and the object phrase, right? Now, I have to identify is form. Whatever is my verb phrase, if that is a variation of one of the is forms, I'll say that it may be converted into a proto form. This checks if the given tag sentence is a simple XSA form. It checks for all the variations of is, covering all modalities and tenses of the to be verb, as is nothing but a to be verb. The verb phrase should be entirely equal to any of the following forms of is. What could be the forms? Is, was, are, were, and there is this entire list. Is, was, were, are, am, shall be, will be, should be, would be, can be, could be, so on, must possibly be, must mostly be, must likely be, must likely to be, ought most likely to be, ought often to be. These are all the variations of is forms. So you have to match whether the verb phrase is any of those forms or not, any of those variations of is or not. For example, input is the cost of calls to Spain will be about 40 pence per minute. Simple natural language, SNL. Tagging, it gives tag sets. From these tag sets, it has to identify the models and the verb. So you see, this is one model and this is the verb, right? And no other VB or model is there. So straight away, my verb phrase will be. Whatever is before it, the cost of calls to Spain. The cost of calls to Spain will become the subject phrase, and whatever is after will be is the object phrase. So since will be is one of the is forms, see, is one of the is forms, will be. So that is why I can put it in X is a form by saying that X is the cost of calls to Spain. This will be converted into the standard is, and this is my R. So this is X, this is, and this is R, right? Airway, another example, Airway allows linking a number of telephones. Simple natural language sentence, simple sentence, part of speech tagging. Over here, I see that allows and linking both have this VB and VP in it, right? My verb phrase is allows linking. Linking is the verb phrase. Whatever is before that is the subject. Whatever is after this is the object. So extract phrase gives me the subject, verb, and object phrase. Now, allows linking is not one of the variations of is, right? So my sentence would, my output would be, this is not an X is a form. Now the question is what to do with such cases where it is not an X is a form. We'll leave it as a fact. We will say that it is not a protoform. It remains to be a fact nevertheless. Right? So that was about X is a form. Now the other variation is Y is X plus B. Remember those 5 protoforms? Hope you have taken your note. 5 protoforms were there. X is A, Y is X plus B, Q A's are B's, Q1 into Q2 A's are B's and C's, Fx is A. Right? I emphasized that you have to remember this. So I'm taking the second protoform, which in fact is a variation of X is A. X is A, but useful nevertheless. In this case, X is Y and A is X plus B. Now see 2 propositions. The cost of calls to Spain, the cost of calls to Germany is a little more than the cost of calls to Spain. So you see these 2 are matching. These 2 are matching. So my Y is the cost of calls to Germany. That is my Y. My X remains the cost of calls to Spain in both the propositions. A little more is B. A little more is B. Why it is useful? If I know that the cost of calls to Spain is about 40 pence per minute. If a question comes, what is the cost of calls to Spain? My answer is straightforward, 40 pence per minute. But what if the question comes, what is the cost of calls to Germany? So my answer would be 40 pence plus a little more. Because the cost of calls to Spain is 40 pence. So 40 pence plus a little more. So computer will miserably fail unless you have PNL in place. If you have PNL, you will be able to formulate the membership function, and you can say 40 pence plus a little more, maybe something like 45 pence or 50 pence or 47 pence, whatever, depending on the membership function that you define for a little more. Now, how do I get this Y is X plus B form? For that, I need to have a match phrase class, a float field for the similarity value between 2 given phrases, 2 string fields for the match phrase and the extra part in the large of the 2 phrases, so that I am able to see similarity value for the match phrase will be X, and that extra part in the larger of the 2 phrases will give me B, right? For the X's and A's of every X is A, match phrase will use a method compute similarity between AI and XJ. Right? Exact match may be returned as 1, regardless of upper lower case may be 0.95, near the beginning may be 0.85. These are just, arbitrary chosen values. Matches only near the end of the phrase 0.8. Exact match of stemmed values. I hope all of you know what is stemming. Borrow, borrower, borrowed. The stem value is borrow. They're all the variations, right? So whenever I'm taking stemmed values, I mean the canonical word, the basic word of it. You strip it off for all its suffixes, prefixes, and so on. So matches of stemmed value only near the beginning of the phrases is 0.55. Stemmed values near the end of the phrase is 0.5. Stemming may be done by Porter-Stemmer algorithm, which is a standard algorithm for stemming for the English language. And it includes stop words removal too. Again, stop words are those words which have very little semantic content, like the, a, and, for. You know, they have very little semantic content, but they are very frequent nevertheless. So you have to remove all such stop words also. So you have to do stemming by Porter-Stemmer algorithm, which is something like if a word ends in IES, replace it by Y. If it ends in S, strip S off so that plural may be reduced to singular. But a word of caution, any stemming algorithm will never give you 100% result. There may be some, problematic areas also, but we should try to maximize the correctly stemmed values. Synonym matches. Suppose I wrote the cost of calls to Spain is about 40 pence per minute, and then I say the cost of calls to Germany is a little more than the price of calls to Spain. So price and cost, they are synonymous. So they should return some similarity. It should not be zero. Matches of stemmed values only near, matches of just a few words may be 0.4 or 0 similarity otherwise. So my match phrase is going to give me this float field for the similarity value, the match phrase, and the extra part in the larger of the two phrases. Now come to third part, QAs are B's forms. Look in A, not in B for any of the following. This Q is basically quantifier. Some, somewhat, few, none, many, almost, a little bit, about, most, all, a lot, numbers in words and digits. Why not in B? Why not in B? Because then it will be more likely the R part of X. About, most will be the small r rather than the Q part of X. Also look in A for any number in either digits or words or a combination of both. Numbers in words may be 1, 2, 3, so on up till 19, and then 20, 30, 40, 50 up till 100, and then 1,000, million, billion, hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, so on, trillions, and so on, right? Okay. Now fourth form, Q1 into Q2 A's are B's and C's form. So this again is a variation of Q1 A's are B's, right? Q2 A and B are C's. Q1 into Q2 A's are B's and C's. Suppose there is a proposition Q1 A's are B's, Q2 A and B's are C's. So Q1 into Q2 A's are B and C's. Let me give an example. It will become more clear. Most balls are large. Proposition 1. Many large balls are heavy, right? Proposition 2. So from there I can deduce this is QA's are B's form, this is QA's are B's form. From these two I can deduce. Remember, 3 things I have to do: knowledge representation, deduction, and concept definition. So how do I deduce? Until and unless there is a question, how many balls are large and heavy? The answer is most into many. So if I know the membership function of most, I know the membership value of many, I will be able to find out their multiplication, and I can give the example, how many balls are large and heavy? They are most into many, whatever it translates into. So again, you have to use the compute similarity because phrases have to be found out, and you have to use this match phrase class and compute similarity method in order to get to the. Now this is the fifth form. Fx is A. For example, if I say his son is quick, can I put it in the X is A form, where X is his son and A is quick? I can do it theoretically, but doesn't make much sense. It is not the proper representation of knowledge, because when I say his son is quick, I probably mean the speed of his son is quick, right? So when I'm giving his son is quick after doing the part of speech tagging, and this is my verb is, which is very much the is form. This is my subject, this is my object. I should be able to give the output speed of his son is quick, right? So this is F, this is X, and this is A, right? How do I do that? I need to have the concept and values. When I'm using the word crawl, fast, quick, rapid, slow, lightning fast, I'm basically talking about speed. Newborn, newly born, adolescent, adult, kid, mature, I'm talking about age, cheap, fairly expensive, expensive, moderate, fee, and so on, so on, so on. You can go on adding. I'm talking about cost. Likewise, dimension, weight, size, temperature, shade, volume of sound, scent, texture, health, quantity, time, taste, appearance, and the list may go on to be added. So any of these words, occurrence of any of these words will give me the corresponding concept. So for every X is A, if A contains any of the listed values, then F will be the concept corresponding to that value, as I said just now. However, exclude those cases where the concept value is followed by a noun. For example, airway shall probably be ideal for the home or small office. So I cannot say that probably size of airway is small. It is not about the size, right? Because it is being followed by a noun, right? So it should not be, a noun should not be taken as the concept or as the value. Now, after all those 5 forms, I need to have their variations with a small r. Looks in A, X, and S is form for any of the following: probably, usually, partially, possibly, mostly, likely. For Y is R, X plus B, look for any of the above in Y, X, B, and I is form. For Fx is RA, look for any of the above in X, A, and is form. Let me give an example. The heart of airway network is possibly the controller. I did the part of speech tagging. Subject phrase is this much, verb phrase is this much, which is very much an X is A form because this is one of the is variations. It will not be listed as X is A form. X is RA may be listed because this possibly will come as the small r. Possibly the heart of airway network is the controller. Likewise, the cost of calls to Germany will be probably a little more than the cost of calls to Spain. So this probably will become the small r, and I'll have the cost of calls to Germany as Y, the cost of calls to Spain as X, and more than as B, right? The cost of calls to Germany will be this. So probably becomes R, the cost of calls to Germany is Y, cost of calls to Spain is X, a little more than will be B, and the similarity value is 0.7, right? His son will probably be quick. So I should get this probably as the small r. Speed of his son is quick. So the summation is a concept which plays a pivotal role in PNL is that of a protoform, a concept which touches upon 2 fundamental facets of human cognition: the ability to summarize and the ability to abstract. The concept of a protoform serves 3 basic functions. You see, I'm using the same thing: organization of knowledge, deduction, definition. By providing a system for precisiation of natural languages, PNL opens the door to a wide-ranging enlargement of the role of natural languages in scientific theories, especially those theories in which human judgment, perceptions, and emotions play important. That is another added dimension, emotions. How do you describe emotions? That is very perceptive. He's happy, he's sad, happy, sad, highly ambiguous terms. unless you use PNL, you won't be able to model such emotions. Now, what could be the future directions? The adjectives and the adverbs are intrinsically imprecise. By very nature, they are imprecise. Fast, high, beautiful, clever. It is all very imprecise. You need to precisiate. Some adjective adverbs are just not quantifiable, like beautiful, clever. Professor Zadeh has a special term for them, V precise. Leave them alone for the time being, at least work on M precise, which are mathematically well defined, like fast, high, etc., which are quantifiable in theory. Beauty, cleverness may not be quantifiable. So that is another challenge. How do you take such V precise adjectives and adverbs? The three forms: fast, faster, fastest. If I say fast, I'm saying as 40 miles per hour. Fast is 40 miles per hour. Then what does faster means? Right? It has to be something like 45 or something. So the three forms. So one area could be adjectives and adverbs, which are intrinsically imprecise. Then we have three forms: slow, slower, slowest. Subject dependence. Clever X, where X is a human being, did the job satisfactorily, and clever Y, where Y is monkey, did the job satisfactorily. Obviously, their precisiation will differ. In the above two, level of satisfaction varies. X, where human being is running fast, Y, animal running fast, Z, a computer machine is running fast. Subject dependence is there. That could be another future direction of research. Combining with GSL, clever X is probably doing the job more satisfactorily. Right? It's probably doing the job more satisfactorily. X was probably running faster. So you have a small r and then you have ER also. How do you take that into account? More complex forms, combining adjectives, adverbs, and GCL into one. A more clever X probably did the job properly. What do you mean by properly? What do you mean by more? What do you mean by clever? What do you mean by probably? See, it is becoming complicated and complicated. And how do you actually try to quantify them or make them precise or precisiate them? So generalized form could be adjective X is RY, adverb X is R, verb, adverb. Complex form could be adjective X is R, verb, adverb. Right? This may be very complex form. A clever X is running faster. Right? Clever X is probably running faster. So much complication is there. Clever itself is complicated. Recursion of adverbs. An adverb describes a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. Same adverb repeated many times. He is running really fast. He is running really, really fast. So if an adverb describes a verb or an adjective, small itself is imprecise. And then you are saying very small, where very is the adverb, right? Or very fast. Fast itself is imprecise, which is a verb. And then you're saying very fast. Becomes so difficult. Different adverbs. X is flying really very high. X is flying really much, much higher than the rest. Right? Different adverbs. Or repetition of verbs, really, really fast. Same adverb repeated. Adjective X is R, verb, adverb to the power N. Different adverbs repeated. Adjective X is R, verb, adverb 1, adverb 2, so on, adverb N. Combination of them. Adverb, adjective X is R, adverb to the power N1, adverb to the power N2, adverb to the power NM. Remember, in the beginning, I had given about to the power 3. When I was giving that passage about traveling from Santa Barbara. So that is pretty much from my side. Thank you very much for your patient listening. And I'll take questions now.
Hey, participants, if anybody else want to ask question, please, sir is available, and then ask.
This is a very vast topic, so I have to hurry through. things. So if there is anything that you want me to elaborate more, I'll be happy to do that.
Yes, sir, inshallah in future. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, to accept the invitation and enlighten us for the very important aspect of the natural language processing and how we can compute the words from the basic sentences to the mathematical concepts, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, I'll take you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. Thank you so much. Dear participants, here the today's session ends. We will meet tomorrow at the same time. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.
Okay, Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, sir. Thank you so much.